Hello and welcome to this Jane's Weather Update. It is Friday, the 9th of May. I have some new mapping to show you, which will be launching at Jane's Weather soon, so very excited about that. But also we have got the long-term outlook in terms of the rain outlook and the temperature outlook based on those climate drivers. If you want the short version up front, it's not looking good for May. If you're after rain, things do get a little bit better as we go through winter into early spring. I'll explain why shortly. Okay, let's start with the map, which will be available on Jane's Weather pretty soon. The dev team is coming along with that. Just to have everything open to start off with, I've got all the legends there on the left-hand side. So we've got warnings from tsunami possibilities, floods, severe weather, thunderstorms, and even right down to downy mildew, frost, sheep graziers, etc. So what do we have happening here today? We've got our radar that's on here, and these are just echoes that aren't really real this morning. That happens with radars. We've got the satellite, which is in behind that. You can see a big cloud band coming through here. We've got speckled cloud over the southeast and up in the Tasman Sea there. We've got onshore winds for the Queensland coast there. And these are all the wind warnings, so the marine wind warnings around here. These ones here are all of the frost warnings and the sheep graziers there and there. And these are our leftover flood warnings that are in the middle of the country, spilling into the centre there. All right, let's zoom into the southeastern parts of the country. We've got, we'll just move that over there. Frost warnings all in through here. It has been a chilly night. Let's maybe put on what we have in temperatures. Let's just have a quick squiz at that. And we can see just how cold it was all through these parts here. We had some freezings up in the alpine areas as well. And if you're near the coast, it wasn't quite as bad thanks to this cloud cover that is sitting in there. I'll just turn those off now. We'll actually have a look at rain since 9 a.m. There is just very light falls in here. Still happening though yesterday in the western coast of Tasmania there. And still some that are coming in now. So I'll just turn those observations off and you can see nice and clear. Okay, the bushwalkers warning has been cancelled. That was lifted yesterday after that snow down to about 500 metres. So lots of fun there. That speckled cloud indicates just how chilly the air is. Let's have a look at I'm just going to run through the seasonal outlook. So if you go to the long range page, rather than having them all on individual tabs as I usually do, we're just going to run through this page today. So we'll go back up to the top. We've got our current weather map, a large high pressure system that is sitting over the southeast of the country. The cold front that brought the chilly conditions, the snow and rain in Tasmania, mainly on the west coast, and not so much heading inland in just on the mainland there. That one has now moved out to the east. Why didn't that extend all the way up like all of the cold fronts are doing? Because high pressure is too dominant. We need that to weaken before we can actually get some benefit from systems as they come through in terms of rainfall. Also, it blocks any connection to tropical moisture. So if you're inland from the coast or the other side of the ranges, then yeah, these aren't going to deliver very much for you other than a hit of colder air and the frosty nights that follow as the next high pressure system comes in. Over in the west, we've got this one and this one, a trough, and cold front developing there. We're not going to see a lot from that one as it comes through. High pressure is on its way out to the Tasman Sea, making sure that we've got onshore winds for the east coast. So that means in our weekly rainfall, that's where all of the wet weather is. It's the east coast thanks to that onshore wind. There's no instability, there's no low pressure. It's just the fact that it's coming off the ocean and it's blowing onto the land that it produces that wet weather there. What that means for the southern coastline, the next one that's coming through, see, it doesn't do much over in the southwest as it comes in. Earlier modelling, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, had that being a little bit stronger. Now it is very weak as it comes through across the weekend. That reaches the southeast around the middle of next week. And again, high pressure is in control. And so the cold front or the system just can't do very much as it passes by. It'll just turn it from being warm again, as it does, it warms up early next week, to back to being cool and then the frosty nights that follow. There is the potential for some wet weather on the west coast of Tasmania, but all of this area in through here is currently in drought, and that isn't enough to get out of that. Let's have a look at this day by day. So again, this will shortly be landing at Jane's Weather. I'm very excited about that, obviously. So let's go through day by day. I don't have that anymore. Let's hide that one so you can see it. So this is Friday at 10 p.m. I'm going to jump through each 10 p.m. So it's a daily rainfall total. You can see the pressure here. So there's our high pressure system that's moving out to the east by later on tonight. Here is all the rainfall that comes to the east coast just in those onshore winds. The other thing you can see here is the hot ones here. So in summer, when you've got this line and this line coming down into the south, that means it's bringing you a 40-degree day. So we just kind of pull it out on the map so you can see it clearly. At the moment, that is up to the north, as you'd expect as we're going through winter. But in the south, here we have the opposite, so the colder air that's coming in. And if I zip through to this one here, it has pretty much disappeared. So this one is snow down to 2,100 metres. So that's pretty much above most of the alpine areas that we have here in Australia. And the next one is 1,800 metres. And then the colours will change and get colder as it goes down to lower levels. So you can just see how much of a cold punch the air has in behind the system as it comes through. So they're kind of the two things to have a look for on this. But otherwise, all of these ones, that's our pressure, and you can see where the high is and just how dominant it is as well. All right, so that's sitting there, meaning we've got the last of the wet weather coming into the southeast. We've got that coming along the east coast. Otherwise, it is all warm and dry, particularly over in Perth today. Let's move into Saturday. Nothing in the southeast. The high has now moved just out to the Tasman Sea. We've got our onshore winds for the east coast. That system passing the west isn't doing very much at all. That's 0 to 1 millimetres, so not a lot. And the cold air from there has been lost. It has moved further south. There's some great rainfall with this, but it's too far south for the mainland to actually pick it up, thanks to that high pressure. All right, moving into Sunday, all of that has slid down to the south. We've got high pressure out through here. We've got clear conditions over the southeast. We've got our onshore winds for the east coast. Day and day and day after that, not much left over in the southwest. As we go into Monday, this one's here, this next little system that is coming up, so you can see there's a cold front in there, the kink in the isobars, that's got a hint more cold air in it. But again, high pressure is just dominating in through here, so it's not delivering a lot. Is this a very out-of-season tropical low? Potentially, yes, well off the coast. Here is our falls for the east coast, just spilling inland a little bit. That's Monday. Let's move into Tuesday. Here's our cold air. What's left of it? Not a lot. Not a lot of rainfall in through the southeast as this system passes by. So this one is shifted very far south, and we don't see very much from that at all. Into Wednesday, the next bit of that does come up. It's lost all its cold air. You've got this here. We do have a trough that is now developing through these inland parts, which is why that is able to spill over into the interior. Onshore winds hits the coast. That's our moisture part of the equation. We've got our trough running through there. That's our instability part of the equation, but it's not delivering a lot. So that is Wednesday next week, and this system, as it passes through the southeast, really doesn't deliver much at all because, you guessed it, high pressure is still in control. Moving into Thursday, there's the remains of that in there. Here's our next high pressure system. We've got our trough running down through here, so the showers and thunderstorms all out to the east of that, thanks to that onshore wind. Moving into Friday, here's the next high pressure system. Here's some colder air just passing through there. There you go. You can see the 1,500 metres. I'll just drop it down. 900 metres. But the cold air has shifted southwards, not as strong as the last one that came through. And moving into Saturday, that has moved away. And the next high is crossing the southeast, while you've got the trough delivering all of that to the eastern parts. So that's kind of the pattern that we're looking at over the next week and a little bit. Let's go longer term and have a look at what is driving all of this. So our sea surface temperature anomaly. Here we have our box over in the Indian Ocean. It is very warm yellow. Our box in the Pacific Ocean used to be all blue. It started turning yellow. It stalled about April, and now it has got its skates back on again, and the blue is disappearing. So that's a very, very neutral box as we look at it at the minute. Off the coast of Australia, still a lot of warmer, as in warmer than average water. There's at the top of the ocean in through here. Some blues just developing in here, but that will be related with all of the cloud that was sitting over there, meaning it can't be as warm. So it cools the ocean underneath it. So it's kind of a cycle in itself. But mainly there's a lot of warm water pretty much all around Australia. That's our pattern. Let's have a look at sea surface temperatures. You can see what it actually looks like underneath rather than the anomaly. Having a look at the Pacific Ocean. Here we came out of the blue box that was in through there. It came out. It did its little wiggle around April where it kind of stalled. Now it's back on again. Now the forecast is showing it's not likely to move up here. And most of the international models have it remaining neutral. So the Pacific Ocean, very neutral this year. If we look back at our sea surface temperature anomaly, all of this here is a source of moisture, We can see just how it came in from the coast there, and as soon as it had some instability to run into, it produces showers and thunderstorms. High pressure blocking that from coming down into the southern parts of the country. So Queensland able to access that at the moment, but the rest not, thanks to the weather pattern. All right, so here is the Pacific, likely to remain neutral as we go through, but we do have a source of moisture off the coast of Queensland. Having a look at the Indian Ocean, so the other side, here we go, we went up, we're currently up. So this isn't a helpful situation for getting rain through to the southern parts of Australia. This is the opposite of those juicy northwest cloud bands. But you saw off the coast of the northwest there, we have warm water to play with. It's not a strong Indian Ocean dipole that is in the positive sense, so in the brown sense here, i.e. causing dry conditions, because we have that warm water ourselves to offset the effects of that. So this situation is very, very dire. If you're looking for the autumn break, for example, we do have an alternative source of moisture, which is just off the coast there, but it's the weather pattern that isn't allowing that to come down. So first of all, positive Indian Ocean dipole, that's where we are. We have the offset of moisture, but the pattern isn't allowing us to actually access that. Now, where is that going? As we move through the rest of autumn and go into winter, it's likely to have a big change in the Indian Ocean there, and potentially go right under the threshold here into a negative Indian Ocean dipole. That would enhance the amount of moisture that is available from the northwest, start pushing it towards us, but only if the weather pattern can take that and actually turn it into something. So this is the moisture part of the equation. It's not the low pressure instability part. This is great news, but we need the other one to work as well. All right, let's have a look at what that is actually doing here, the southern annular mode. This one here has been positive since the early part of last year. Now, not always positive, it does go up and down, but the majority of the time it is sitting as positive. Last year, stopped those cold fronts coming through, put that big area of the southeast into drought. It literally stops the weather systems from coming through. At the moment, it's positive and it's likely to remain positive. Yes, this is always going positive and to neutral. That's what the Bureau's modelling does, but from where we have been with that positive so far, you expect that to be continuing. This is the problem. This is why it can't rain. So this here is the thing to keep an eye on. And whenever it can actually dip down, we get a nice strong cold front come through. If the highs can actually split and access that tropical moisture, then we are sitting very, very comfortably. Just like around Swan Hill, that little strip that did good in that rainfall last time, that was able to actually access some of that moisture and turn it into good falls. But it was only in the spot that was allowed to get that wet weather. The other bits missed out because the pattern didn't allow it. Okay, so that's what we keep an eye on there. Interestingly, the MJO here has been very weak and indiscernible, but it's about to do a little bit of a drive-by. So that is potentially what's happening in Queensland as we move through these parts here. After it does that, it then extends out and through here. It's quite strong. It's on the other side of the globe. What is this? It's a pulse of tropical moisture, or like energy that travels around the tropics. When it's here, it does good things for us trying to connect that moisture to those low pressure systems. When it's away, it suppresses that activity. So we're more likely to be dry with less tropical moisture source when it's over here. And that is the majority of May. Maybe starting to come back as we go into the very beginning of June. So that's something to keep an eye on. All right, let's have a look at next week's outlook. The first one was May overall. It was meant to be drier than average for the vast majority of the country. That is kind of how it is picking up. It had weak colours on the east coast, and that is literally the pattern that we are in. If high pressure is dominant and it's sitting across the south, mainly out to the southeast, also sometimes sitting over the bight, then yeah, we're not going to get a lot of weather systems come through to deliver that wet weather. So that is checking out so far. Not a good thing, but it is correct in terms of what the modelling is doing. Here we have the week the 13th to the 19th, and we're looking very, very dry indeed, except for the east coast and these parts of Queensland and into the north, which may be related to that little pulse from the MJO. But again, high pressure, not letting it come any further south. Okay, what does that mean? Yes, it's going to be hotter. If we've got high pressure sitting out to the east, that's northerly winds for the majority of the country in the south here. Not the east coast, no, but all of these parts here, indicating that you're going to get hotter than average days. That pattern is continuing. In terms of colder than average days, No, there's nothing on that map there. Looking at nights now, and this is unusually warm nights over in the west and in through here. You'd expect that with all of the cloud cover. And looking at unusually cold nights, high pressure, clear skies. You had the little cold system come through, so all of these parts here are colder than average, which means we're looking at a frost situation that's moving through these parts during the course of that week. Okay, let's now move on to the following week, which is 19th to 25th. Still got a very large area of brown that is running through here. May as a whole, if you're anywhere in through here that's looking for rain, it is not likely to do good things for you. However, Queensland, doing quite well because we've got that little pulse from the MJO as it came through, and we've got constantly onshore winds. There's moisture to play with. As soon as you get a bit of low pressure in through there, yes, it turns it into showers and thunderstorms. So a very big contrast once again. Queensland getting the rain, the rest missing out, potentially not as dry over in the southwest as we go into the second week. Okay, let's have a look at days. Yes, you would expect that to be continuing warmer than average during the day. The situation, it's the change. It hasn't changed. It is exactly the same. Moving into the night, low maximums, cold days. No, there are none of those. Looking at nights, warmer than average nights again over in the southwest. And do we have our frost signal? Yes, we do. So that is again high pressure being dominant, clear, calm, and a frost risk all through those parts of the southeast. All right, where do we go after that? First month outlook. So May had brown pretty much everywhere except for the east coast and the northeastern parts of Queensland. This one for June has a little bit more coming in through here. Now, you'll notice it kind of skips the southwest. Yeah, it's coming in through here though. So is that the Indian Ocean starting to actually be able to deliver some sort of wet weather coming down from the northwest? That's an encouraging sign. Here, looking drier than average, interesting. Here, still very 50-50 and with some brown tones in through there, but not as dire as it looked for the May one. So June, things are looking up, not amazing, but up. Moving down into, yep, it's going to be hot. Yep, it's going to be hot. There's nothing else really to say about that. Moving into July, again, getting stuff from the northwest coming in. Is it able to actually spread all the way through, or does it just sit here over the desert, which is very unfortunate? Southwest is looking more on the brown side. Here, we're losing the brown tones. We're not really getting the green tones, but it is very neutral, very 50-50. Yes, it's hot, and yes, it is hot. Looking at the seasonal outlook, this is June through to August. This is the modelling that came out yesterday, by the way, so it's the latest stuff. This shows that we're starting to get that thing coming down from the northwest. It's maybe missing the southwest, very unfortunate, and maybe not making it all the way through to the southeast. So that's the latest guidance on that one there. That's it from me for this week. I will see you again next Friday. Hopefully that, well, at least it tells you what is most likely to happen. It's not great news, but at least you are informed rather than not knowing what is going on. I'll see you next week.